Hello everybody, this is Mark Sedgwick. Today I'm presenting a psychoanalysis on my favorite UFC fighter of all time, Conor McGregor, the two-time champion, featherweight and lightweight champion of the world, 145 pound, 155 pound. I've looked up to him for a number of reasons over the years, because of his boldness, because of his determination, and his winning spirit and attitude. But he is very controversial, and he has made some mistakes in his past. So that's why I wanted to analyze him today in this video. So I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get to it. So let's get to the description of him. Conor McGregor is an Irish man from Dublin, Ireland. His occupation is UFC, former two-time champion. He's 34 years old, a male, and he's married with 3 kids. And disclaimer, the observations and clinical assessment is from a non-trained novice, me, and any proposed diagnosis or non-diagnosis cannot be assumed to be valid. This is mere calculated, researched assumptions, but not clinically proven. I am a student studying exercise science, special education, and psychology. So I got a little bit of validity in my name, just a little bit. All right, so clients presenting problems. Seems to me that he has symptoms that represent that he has borderline personality disorder. For example, extreme anger and rage that I have noticed when he's at these press conferences, whenever the fights are building up. He gets very angry at his opponents. He will say derogatory terms, inappropriate, demeaning speech. He tries to hurt their feelings and says mean things about their appearance. And sometimes he's crossed lines that normal people would not cross. So that's a big reason why I want to assess him. Also, he's very impulsive in his spending money. He has a famous quote that he says, I have a very unhealthy habit of spending money, but a very healthy habit of making money. And reckless driving, we'll get into that a little later. His impulsive, reckless driving, high speeds, he's known for that. And then also he has attacked and thrown objects at his opposition, his opponents. He's gotten so mad. One story is he was going to fight a man named Khabib Nurmagomedov, the greatest fighter, debatably, in the whole UFC. And in the lead up, Khabib slapped Conor McGregor's friend in the face for talking trash on social media. And because Conor McGregor found out that Khabib did that, he went backstage at one of the UFC events and threw a dolly at the window of the bus that Khabib was on. Glass shattered and hit a bunch of people. We'll get more into details about that in the next following slides. But that's just an example of why we are suspecting borderline personality disorder. Also, substance abuse, marijuana, alcohol, and potential cocaine. I've seen a couple of social media posts where he seems like he's a little hyper for the norm, speaking very fast and overly laughing, overly silly, it's over the top. Keep that in mind as we continue. He's the owner of Proper 12 Irish Whiskey, the creator. And he consumes a lot of it over the years, over these past few years that he's created the new brand of whiskey. And he's also opened up a pub and a hotel inn that's called Black Forge. And he's very often there hosting parties with his family and going there to oversee the place. But he definitely has lots of drinks, as he definitely is not hesitant to post on his social media. And there's also social media posts of him using marijuana. often and talking about it. I'm smoking here a joint with my breakfast, with his accent and stuff. And so my clinical assessment plan is to start off with the ASAM criteria to test for addiction and substance abuse. And so that would include looking into his personal and family history in regards to medical, in regards to former use from his family members, such as his father and his mother and his grandparents, and also influences to continue to use these drugs, such as alcohol and marijuana, for sure, and the potential for relapse. Because in his career, through my research, I found that he was using alcohol during one fight, and then the next fight he went totally committed because he lost and he wanted to get vengeance. So he was humbled. It seemed like, so he totally cut off any liquor at all, and he was totally focused. I don't believe he smoked either. He seemed very sincere and committed. So we want to test if he's going to relapse, as he did after that fight. After that fight that he was clean, he ended up going back to it and relapsing. So we want to look into those kinds of things. We'll continue talking about the ASAM here in a little bit, but also we want to do a clinical interview with him to look for underlying reasons for this aggression. Is there childhood trauma? We'll talk a little bit more about that. Are there mental disorders besides these things that we're looking into here in regards to substance abuse? Is there more to it, to the story here? Behavioral observation is another thing we want to do, to study how he reacts to things, find if he is dangerous to himself. Does he have suicidal thoughts? I don't think so. Does he hurt his family? Or is he dangerous to society? We'll talk more about that here in a bit. So here are some of the criteria for the ASAM. There's 6 dimensions, and let's mention a couple of them. So acute intoxication or withdrawal potential. That's the first dimension. Exploring an individual's past and current experience with substance use and the withdrawal symptoms. Emotional, behavioral, or cognitive conditions. This is dimension 3 I'm looking at. Or complications. This will explore an individual's mental health history and current cognitive and mental health needs. Is he using these substances to cope with some of the struggles that he's gone through in his life? Is there childhood trauma that he is drowning out rather than dealing with up front? Why is he coping? Why is he using these things? Why did he relapse? Looking at dimension 5, the readiness to change. He doesn't seem very ready to change he seems very happy with the marijuana he's smoking and his proper 12 Irish whiskey. He has no problem with drinking it. But it seems like he does have a readiness to change when he's going into competition, at least in the recent bouts. So that is something else to continue to explore. So case history, his upbringing, his childhood. He was an apprentice plumber and he was very unhappy doing it, but he was just doing it to please his family. In some of the interviews I studied, he said that he was called a waster, meaning a waster of time, because he was just so unmotivated doing the apprentice plumbing and studying this craft that he was so unhappy pursuing, not motivated, not on fire, not passionate to do it. Another notable thing is he mentions childhood bullies in some of his interviews. He said this is the reason why he got into fighting. A lot of people did soccer and things like that. He played some soccer in his childhood, which is why he's probably inclined to kick people very skillfully. And but yeah, so he had some bullies and he had to be able to defend himself in this area of poverty where his upbringing was. And his and then once he became a teenager and now growing up, approaching his 20s, his parents did not want him to join the UFC once he really fell in love with the craft of mixed martial arts. they saw no potential in it. They really didn't believe in him, and this might also be affecting his self-worth. He was the only one who believed in himself at the time. His girlfriend as well, he reports, but mainly it was all him who believed in himself mostly. So having no external encouragement can really hurt a person's mind, as we may be seeing here. It can lead to substance abuse, potentially, right? So in adulthood, he was a UFC superstar, 2 times world champion, very, very, very successful. And what he did, he was very successful in mental warfare. So some of this stuff might be used tactfully. That's something to be aware of in assessing him, is he might be using this aggression that may be seen as a mental disorder to his advantage to get into the mind of his opponents before he calculatedly fights them. Very strategic mental warfare. Throws dolly at bus, as we mentioned, and he got disorderly conduct charged to him, and he had to serve community service after he pled guilty, and that was in 2019. Also in that same year, and that was that same year that he got beat by Khabib Nurmagomedov, he assaulted a man at a pub, and that only led to $1,400 fine. That was also in 2019. Now, in recent days, he had a fight with a man named Dustin Poirier, who he knocked out early in his career. But now, in the recent years, he fought him twice. The first time he got leg kicked, and then once he got leg kicked, that leg was no longer functioning, so he couldn't hardly walk, and that led him to not be able to have much head movement. So he got knocked out, Conor McGregor. So that made the score 1-1. And then they fought a third time, and Conor McGregor was aggressively kicking his leg, trying to get revenge. And he snapped his shin bone in half during that fight. And that's where he is today. He's still recovering, and he's very close to recovery. He's already back training again. This was about a year ago. Then, just recently here in 2022, reckless driving charge in his $187,000 Bentley car, and that is the negative side. But the positive side that we can also consider in this assessment is that he passed all of his drug tests. That's including marijuana, cocaine, and alcohol. So that is a good sign for Conor McGregor in regards to being drunk while driving and being under the influence while driving. So this is a fun image. Criteria for substance abuse disorder. I won't talk too much about this because we're going to be covering it here in the next slide. But these are some of the criteria. Craving the substance, wanting to cut down but you can't, continuing to use even though there's problems in your relationships. His wife seems happy with him. I don't know what happens behind the doors. I'm just speaking on the research of the interviews and the photos of social media, which are, as we know, highlights only. Taking the substance in large amounts, larger amounts than they're meant to. Using the substance even when it puts you in danger. Neglecting other parts of your life because of the substance use. And there's a picture of him smoking marijuana. I believe that's on a plane or something, or maybe in his pub. All right, so here's an image of him right after his Floyd Mayweather boxing bout. And that's him celebrating, holding up his glass of proper 12. So after reviewing the DSM-5 criteria, he certainly meets the criteria. Let's go through them a little bit here. Wanting to cut down or stop using the substance, but not managing to. He does not meet that requirement because he does not want to stop. It is evident he does not want to stop or feels the need that he wants to stop. He only feels the need to stop when he's going to the fights. Is that hindering his ability to fight? That is debatable. And we will save that for another day. But he does not meet that requirement because he also does show that he has some restraint to be able to stop. But does he have cravings and urges to use the substance? I would say certainly he has cravings and urges. That's why he does it in the mornings when he eats breakfast, as he reported. Not managing to do what you should at work, home, or school because of the substance, I would say yes. whenever he's drinking at night or doing something like that, it does lead to hangovers. That must be a hindrance to his ability to perform in training. Continuing to use even when it causes problems in relationships, I would assume so. Using substances again and again, even when it puts him in danger, this might be the case. To be fighting people at a pub, that is certainly dangerous. And by acting in such an impulsive way, you can definitely get hurt. Borderline personality disorder. I would say he definitely meets the DSM-5 criteria. I'll start off with the definition. The DSM-5 describes borderline personality disorder as a pervasive pattern of instability of interpersonal relationships, self-image, and affects, and marked impulsivity, beginning in early adulthood, present in a variety of contexts. American Psychiatric Association, 2013. Does he have pervasive patterns? He certainly does meet that criteria. Does he have marked impulsivity? Certainly. Whenever he's at a press conference and somebody even dares to insult him, he has been shown to throw things such as a Monster energy drink can at one of his opponents. In a variety of contexts, definitely. Whenever he is in an interview, he'll do these sorts of things. Whenever he is at a press conference, he'll do these sorts of things. At a pub, in his car, the list goes on. Instability of affects, he meets that requirement as well. There's definitely instability in the way that he is communicating with certain people, depending on if they're his opponent or not. Exhibit A, Mayweather versus McGregor. Onset, when attention is on him. Whenever he's on stage, it's definitely bound to onset. The duration and intensity, short to long burst of rage and aggression. So here, whenever they go face to face, he is certainly trying to get some sort of a mental warfare edge on him. Mayweather obviously looks unfazed here, but he changes. He turns into this sort of animalistic, aggressive, loud person who says derogatory terms to his opponent. Frequency, when opponent is present or leading up to a fight, 3 to 5 times a year he'll fight usually, but this can occur a multitude of times throughout the year. Conor McGregor, I wish you the best on the rest of your career. To a strong, sober mind and an intelligent and calculated return to the UFC and on the rest of your endeavors, including Proper 12. So here are my resources. It's been very interesting doing this study, as I have found out so much more about Conor McGregor and the things that he might be struggling with in his career. Substance abuse is no joke, and it can consume even the greatest of athletes and the greatest of entertainers, as we have seen in a multitude of cases. It is a devastating trap to fall into, and hopefully Conor McGregor will be able to overcome this and enjoy himself, but not ruin his career and his potential to make a comeback. This is Mark Sedgwick. Hope you enjoyed.